We are joined on the Newsmaker hotline by a guy named Gordon Chang. He's an acknowledged expert on North Korea and China, an author. He also writes for Forbes.com. And we thought it'd be a good time to talk to him, given all that's going on in the world. I don't know if you noticed or not, but North Korea canceled the armistice agreement. You know, that little agreement that ended the Korean conflict.
We are back at war.
Yeah, apparently so. And how we responded? Well, we've sent missile cruisers into the area. We have stealth fighters moving into the air. We've used B-2 bombers in war games.
F-22s yesterday joined in.
That's right. We have B-2 bombers being used in war games with the South. So, Mr. Chang, where are we in this very complicated relationship we have with North Korea?
Well, the North Koreans, for various internal reasons, because of disarray inside the regime in Pyongyang, are going through this provocation once-a-day routine. And they're going to continue to do this at least through the middle of this month, because April 15th is the birthday of Kim Il-sung, the founder of North Korea and the grandfather of the current leader. This is going to get serious because the North Koreans are going to go one step at a time towards the line. And they very well may not know where that line is.
Well, they've acted up before, and they always want something. So what do they want this time?
Well, I think Kim Jong-un wants to consolidate his position in the regime. Of course, they want the end to sanctions because the sanctions that we now have potentially can bite. They want more money. They want respect. And ultimately, they want to absorb South Korea by force if necessary. They've never given up that goal. And this regime's legitimacy is based upon killing foreigners. We know that for the course of 6 decades.
And Gordon Chang, it seems to me that every few years this happens, and American response is to, as we're doing right now, boost up our military presence there to let South Korea know that we're there to support them. And then we go back to the UN and we try to do increased sanctions. And every time that happens, then North Korea, they sort of have this moral high ground where they can stand up to the world and say, see, United States is bullying us. Is it better at this point for us to just ignore them?
No, we can't ignore the North Koreans.
Why not?
They do kill South Koreans, but more important from our perspective, they sell everything that they make, 3-stage ballistic missiles, nuclear technology to the Iranians. That reactor that was destroyed in the Syrian desert in September 2007 was a North Korean one paid for by Iran. So this is not just a North Asia problem. Even if we were willing to say to South Korea, you do this on your own, we have to worry about the Persian Gulf. We have to worry about the effect on the world's nuclear non-proliferation regime.
Well, Gordon Chang, Jay Carney, the White House spokesman, said yesterday that there's no evidence that North Korea plans to back up these threats. They're basically calling them out on the international stage and saying they're a paper tiger. Does that kind of rhetoric escalate things, or does it help things?
Well, I think it eventually will help things, but we've got to remember that we're not worried about a large-scale invasion from the north at this point or for them to airmail a nuke to the United States, though they'll be able to do that within about 3 or 4 years. What we're worried about is some deadly provocation, killing South Koreans or Americans or Japanese, and that will escalate because right now the South Koreans are sick and fed up of absorbing blows from North Korea and not retaliating.
All right, when you talk about North Korea, you also have to talk about the complication of China, who is really the only friend that North Korea has in the world.
Well, certainly, and the Chinese have been selling the North Koreans mobile missile launchers. The reason why we reversed our decision on those 14 interceptors in Alaska last month was not because of the longest-range missiles, which we can destroy on the launch pad.
Right.
We did that because of the mobile missile launchers that China sold North Korea recently.
Gordon Chang joins us. He's a columnist at Forbes.com and also author of Nuclear Showdown, North Korea Takes on the World. Perfect time for you to be peddling a book, by the way, Gordon Chang. I'm sure that's doing well considering what's going on in the headlines. I ask you this. It seems to me that with North Korea and the increase of their nuclear program there, the biggest concern, as you say, is that them selling it to Iran. What can the United States do to keep that from happening realistically?
Well, we need to interdict their shipping, and we need to talk to China about this and basically say you can be friends with North Korea, you can be friends with the United States, but you can't be friends with both. And I know that that's tough, but, selling this stuff around the world, even to Al-Qaeda, could end up being an existential threat to the United States. So this is serious.
I wonder, in this political climate, you see the president, bringing back our presence from Afghanistan and Iraq. You see the rise of Rand Paul and kind of an isolationist strain within a lot of Americans' eyes at this point after the global war on terror and the fatigue there. Do we have the stomach to engage North Korea in this way? And in retrospect, was the Korean War, in the long run, a good idea, being an expert on the peninsula there?
Well, I'm not saying what we have to do is practical, but I am saying it's necessary. And when we don't do what is necessary, this is going to be followed by a period of uncertainty, certainly turbulence, and maybe death in great numbers. I'm not saying, as I said, that we have the stomach to do this, but this is something that we need to do because nobody else will do it. And the consequences of North Korea reaching out and killing people will be really high in the future.
All right, so on one hand, you got the White House spokesman saying, oh, there's nothing to worry about here. But on the other hand, our military is moving guided missile cruisers and F-22s into the region. We have used B-2 bombers. That's a bit of an unusual move to use B-2 bombers in war games with the South. What should we make of all that?
Well, the B-2 and the B-52s and the F-22s are part of an ongoing military exercise. We did that as much to reassure the South Koreans as to send a message to the North Koreans, because the South Koreans are starting to doubt our ability to defend them. And when that happens, they may go for nuclear weapons of their own. They may strike back at North Korea. What we're really doing is trying to keep the peace. If we don't keep the peace, then what happens on the Korean Peninsula becomes really tragic, not just for the Koreans, but also for the entire region and the United States as well.
All right.
So this is a point where we really have to start to think about, well, yes, we're tired, but what are the consequences of not doing something?
All right, Gordon Chang, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.